我在上班和上进之间选择了上香，在求人和求己之间选择了求佛，混斗了几十年，摆又摆不烂，卷又卷不赢，躺又躺不平，修又修不进，靠自己没用，只能靠神了。哎呦我的妈！烧几百个香，许个几百万的愿，万一中了呢？
In today's mainland China, a wave of young people are flocking to temples. At the Yonghe Palace in Beijing, amidst the crowds offering incense in the main hall, many young Chinese can be seen. They include recent graduates entering the job market and college students still in school. The scent of incense envelopes their slightly anxious faces, much like the uncertainty of their future lives. Chen, a 19-year-old student, is among them. She told Reuters that she came to the Yonghe Palace to pray for her career prospects, even though she still has many years until graduation. The job market is becoming more competitive and the pressure is immense, she said. Facing the pressure of finding a job and unaffordable housing prices, 22-year-old Wang Xiaoning hopes to find some peace in the temple. Wang is one of the 11.58 million college graduates in China this year. Last year's strict zeroing policy dealt a heavy blow to the Chinese economy, and the job market they face is still affected by it. At 22, since graduation, Wan experienced failing civil service entrance exams, numerous unsuccessful applications, and the fear of being left behind by her peers. Sometimes she couldn't sleep at night, tossing and turning, with only one thought in her mind: I'm done. So she decided to move into the temple. Her goal is to achieve a 6.5 score on the IELTS under the blessings of Buddha. Temple life is relaxed and free, and the pressure from peers seem insignificant against the backdrop of more profound suffering. She also convinced herself to be calm, serene, and to face life with an inclusive attitude. However, this is ultimately a form of escape. She told online NetEase forum readers that when she returned to society, she realized that everything in the temple was just a painkiller. After a brief period of tranquility, she returned to the crowded path of life. Are young people flocking to temples out of sincere devotion to Buddha? Clearly not. Instead, they are filled with uncertainty about their future and seek divine blessings. They hope that Buddha will bless them with a smooth job search, a suitable job, preferably without a 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, or 007, 24 hours 7 days a week work schedule, and not to be laid off. After 3 years of pandemic lockdowns, the economy in many Chinese provinces has hit the pause button, and the pace of foreign capital withdrawal has accelerated. The difficulty of finding jobs and the ongoing wave of unemployment are constantly plaguing young Chinese. At this time, young people's love for offering incense has become a new phenomenon that the mainland media is paying attention to. A report in the Beijing News published in late April stated that from February to the present, the total proportion of people born in the 1990s and 2000s booking temple scenic area tickets accounted for nearly 50%. The online search volume for temples has increased 368 times since 2019, and young people are keen to visit different temples to offer incense and ask for divinations, and even willing to pay high prices for Buddhist prayer beads and bracelets. The report claims that the trend of young people offering incense and praying to Buddha originated from the economic downturn, the pressure of finding jobs, and other factors. Some netizens said that there are fewer and fewer things that hard work can change, and the impact of education degrees is becoming smaller, prompting many to seek for a channel to release pressure, and temples have become their way to alleviate anxiety. China's New Weekly also reported that based on search popularity, recent popular temple scenic spots include Hangzhou's Lingyi Temple, Putuo Mountain Scenic Area, Hanshan Temple, Yonghe Palace, Foguang Temple, White House Temple, Giant Wild Goose Pagoda, Jiming Temple, Shaolin Temple, and Potala Palace. In fact, visiting temples had already become popular among the young last year. In October of the previous year, The WeChat public account One Art Life published an article titled "Youth Who Can't Make It Ashore Are Obsessed with Offering Incense." The article pointed out that during the National Day long holiday period last year, Beijing's Jietai Temple was filled with young people. Posting about temples on Chinese social media platform Xiaohongshu had become a popular trend. The term making it ashore refers to being admitted to a research institute or becoming a civil servant or successfully achieving a goal. The issue of youth unemployment can no longer be ignored. In March this year, official data released in China showed that unemployment rate among young people aged 16 to 24 was 19.6%, meaning that 1 in 5 aged 16 to 24 was unemployed. Considering that the number of college graduates in mainland China this year will reach 11.58 million, this highlights the problem of youth unemployment. However, as mainland China faces the highest youth unemployment rate in decades, official media has blamed graduates for having high expectations and criticized them for not being willing to work in blue-collar jobs. In March, the Beijing state newspaper, the Beijing Daily, expressed in an editorial that employment and academic anxiety can be understood, but young people who really pin their hopes on God and Buddha in the face of pressure are obviously going astray. However, this has sparked considerable controversy. Some netizens criticize the authorities for generalizing the situation, while others believe that young people's love for offering incense in temples is due to helplessness. According to a survey conducted by the job search website 51Job in November last year, which interviewed 100 Chinese employers, more than half of the respondents plan to reduce recruitment in 2023, further narrowing the opportunities for unemployed graduates. The Chinese Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the matter. The education authorities pointed out that for the first time this year, the number of graduate and doctoral students in Beijing has surpassed that of undergraduate students. An article analyzed that there are currently 3 groups of young people in China who are facing the greatest difficulties. If their urgent needs cannot be addressed, it will directly impact social stability and the legitimacy of the authorities' governance will be challenged. The first group consists of those from rural families whose parents are farmers in rural areas with relatively low income. Due to the economic conditions at home, it is not only difficult for their parents to help and support them, but the parents may also rely on their children's income after they start working. The second group comprises of those from migrant worker families. Although their parents work in cities and generally have higher incomes than farmers, it is still not easy. Most of them earn money through labor-intensive work and are susceptible to macroeconomic conditions, making their ability to support young people quite limited. The third group is made up of young people from low-income urban families. Although their parents have urban household registration, they are still part of the lower class and cannot help their children. The highlighted 3 groups embody the toughest circumstances for today's youth, with their needs demanding urgent societal attention. They face higher unemployment risks and challenges compared to those from wealthy families who can pursue education or leisure if faced with job loss. However, job loss for these vulnerable groups leaves them without options. The prominent issue of youth unemployment is just a snapshot of the anxiety and confusion experienced by youth in mainland China in recent years. The phenomenon of young people praying and burning incense reflects the mental stress of many. The recent hot topic of Kongyiji literature in mainland China has its roots in the difficulties of employment. Kongyiji is a literary character from the early 20th century who refused to do menial work. This is a metaphor for college graduates who are refusing to work below their education level. When answering the questions of whether young people should shed Kongyiji's long gown, writer Yu Hua said that a literary magazine in mainland China, Dan Dai, plans to recruit 6 editors this year, but 6,000 people applied, all with master's or doctoral degrees. However, this job position would not have been attractive to college students 20 years ago. Yu Hua said he could understand the dilemma of young people, as their parents have worked hard to support them through college, only for many of them to end up with jobs that require only a high school education. In recent years, new terms related to corporate livestock, workers, 996 work system, delivery drivers trapped in the system, overwork, involution rat race, and lying flat have trended on mainland China's internet. A key reason for this is the difficulties faced by young people. However, complaints and venting aside, most youth from ordinary backgrounds do not have the financial means to lie flat under the harsh pressures of reality, but they indeed do not want to continue the involution, a situation described as can't lie flat, can't roll up. The huge gap between expectations and reality troubles a large number of young Chinese. In an article titled A Disturbing Statistic, 19.3% unemployment rate for 16 to 24-year-old urban youth in mainland China, Hong Kong 01 examines the Chinese youth's sentiments. While many are confident about the country's future, they feel uncertain about their own. This stems from China's economic growth and progress since the reform and opening up, instilling confidence in the nation's future. However, shrinking reform dividends, increasing class disparities, the rise of involution, and high housing prices contribute to the youth's uncertainty about their prospects. This gap between national and personal outlooks is a warning. If issues affecting young people remain unaddressed, and fair participation in social competition isn't granted to those from rural, remote, or lower class backgrounds, it could impact their enthusiasm and confidence in the nation. This is particularly concerning amid class solidification, involution, high housing prices, and economic pressures, which make young people acutely impacted by economic downturns. Proactive measures should be taken promptly. The Chinese government has already announced measures to encourage companies to hire young workers, providing training subsidies and more apprenticeship programs. Young graduates can also obtain funding for their startups. However, in a country with a population of 1.4 billion, any labour market reforms and stimulus measures will take time to produce results. As China's economy no longer grows at double-digit rates, upward mobility in careers has started to reverse. Society has created immense pressure for success, and the competition in the workplace has become more intense. During the COVID-19 lockdown, many young people began to reject involution and instead chose jobs with lower incomes and more room for activity. This phenomenon is called lying flat. Kevin Lin, a researcher and executive editor of the Asian Labour Review, told Deutsche Welle, lying flat reflects the sentiment of giving up effort among young workers, which is understandable. The question is whether they can truly achieve lying flat. China is not a welfare state, and there are no mechanisms to support unemployed youth.